Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ViaMonstra office hours. It is Wednesday, it's 4:30 p.m., and this is your chance to ask questions about MDT, ConfigMgr, Intune, and also get a little bit of an update what happened in pretty much the last week. So, welcome so much. Welcome, Andrew, and let the intro get going here. All right, what an exciting week. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I think getting overloaded with a little bit of news today.
It's a Microsoft Ignite week, and there's been a ton of announcements already. So why don't we start looking into that? I mean, we do have an update section in the show, so why not?
Yeah,
As good as
sounds
any.
good. Did you want me to pull up some things, or did you want to get going first?
Do, sir.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let me share.
I can find the screen. Click, click. Ah, magic.
You're getting pretty good with this platform, I must say.
Tried my best.
So one of the first things on my list, though perhaps not the largest bit of news, update compliance in Intune is becoming a Windows Update for Business reports. So I first saw this from Gabe Frost and Arya Carly coming out today. There will be, looks to me like a easier way to onboard your devices into what appears to be some improved Windows Update reporting that's coming in through Intune. I thought that was a pretty cool update today. That's something that the community's long been talking about, is some of the improvements that we're looking for in the native reporting. I don't know about you, Johan, but I was pretty excited to see reporting improvements.
Especially the way of going, leveraging the update compliance platform. Like, okay, that's the way we're going forward. It was nice to see that announcement. Kind of had that going for them already, building up the platform and whatnot. But it was a nice update.
Definitely. And perhaps the one that I should have started with is the Microsoft Endpoint Manager name will no longer be used.
Yeah.
After a few years of confusion on what we call things.
But at least I didn't call it Defender. So
Defender for Intune, Defender for Configuration Manager. No, you're right. Thankfully not. But as I understand this announcement, and we'll make sure we get these links posted. I'll share these in our chat as well, Johan.
yeah.
As I understand this name change, the Microsoft Endpoint Manager name will no longer be used. Here we go.
Yeah.
Going forward, they'll refer to cloud management as Intune and on-premises management as Microsoft Configuration Manager, which sounds to me a little less confusing.
So that must mean that the old MCM hashtag is gone, and it's going to be now what? MCM? I don't know. For config manager.
Yep. We'll have to see how it shakes out, or we'll just add additional hashtags to the end of the tweets now at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because people, they say Intune when they mean Microsoft Intune. They rarely call it like Microsoft Endpoint Management stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
And config manager is config manager, and will always be. So it makes total sense to me. I'm happy they did that change.
I totally agree. Let's see, what else did we have? Oh, organizational messages. So I came across this tweet earlier today with one of these announcements. So organizational messages is coming with Windows 11 and Microsoft Intune. So this looks like some custom messages that you'll be able to drop to your users or a group of users in Azure AD through Intune, which is kind of cool to see this again, an improvement in some of the native features. We've seen, I think on our show just last week, we were talking about the toast notification PowerShell module.
Exactly. I'm getting so many flashbacks back to like net message that you
Yeah,
did back in the days to have something pop up in like the MT4 time frame or older even. So yeah, it's nice to see.
well,
Really.
this could make for some of that old school fun in one of our demo tenants or something like that.
Oh yeah. Hey, here we come.
I
You can
love
have a
it.
lot of fun with that, I bet.
Um, One other thing that I had real quick, this is not really a feature enhancement or anything, but there is a new GitHub repo I saw that has all of the, well, not all, but the popular aka.ms links for the portal pages. Um, so we've often talked about the page that I believe is community managed, msportals.io,
Yeah,
uh, that has a lot of the full links, but we now also have an official Microsoft owned repo that has the aka.ms links here that can
that is
guide
pretty
you
good.
to some, yeah, take you to directly to some of the portals within the portals, I guess, as well. So I was excited to see that. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So those were some of the quick things that I came across today.
All right, let me. I had a few more that I bookmarked here. So let me get that one away and get this one in. So first of all, this little collection of things that happens at Ignite at the moment regarding the Intune family and whatnot, and also an announcement for an upcoming. They call it technical takeoff, but if you go to this one here, this is 2 weeks away, where there will be a bunch of sessions related to, I guess, pretty much of the features that came out from Ignite here. So highly recommend to bookmark that one in your calendar. It's going to be a few days with a lot of content for what we love the most, Intune and ConfigMgr. So good stuff there. And speaking of these links, for those of you that are new to the platform, we do post them on the Academy site, but you also find them on YouTube. So, for example, if you go to last week's office hours, we click that video. I'm not going to play it for you. But in the more option here, this is where we share those links that we were talking about that particular week. So easy access to them. I think we are usually like a day or two behind on these links, but they get added there. So no worries. In addition to that, let's see, that was the naming that you talked about. This was that overall what's going on stuff. That was the link I clicked. Oh, this one was published this afternoon. If you're interested in seeing what's out there, the book of news has been formally published on the website, so that is good. They've done this every year, every Ignite since a good few years back, but that's a good read. Will keep you busy for a while, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That one you mentioned regarding the messages. And then we have this little thing here, what Microsoft called a new plan for Intune, advanced solutions for endpoint management. And sure enough, what did I put into that one? Well, for example, remote help and the tunnel and some other things. And I'm assuming this was because they realized they simply couldn't sell remote help for $350 a user a month, which
I
was
think
an
that's
outrageous, not that bright pricing model, if you ask me, on the whole thing. So this will be launched at some point next year. There were no pricing mentioned in this one at all. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes out as a more reasonable price to get these additional features on top of you get with your own normal Intune license. So yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. for sure.
Hmm.
Now, are there any questions out there? Anything we can help you answer? This is just our. All right. There's a question from Matt here. That you noticed there are any spots or like core Windows sessions or core config manager sessions? Yeah, unfortunately, that has been the trend for many, many Ignites. Uh, the last one that I remember was back in 2015, 2016, when me and Kent, we did a config manager pre-conference on config manager. But since then, there has been sessions for config manager and on-premises platforms in general has been quite scarce, unfortunately. I loved those sessions back in the tech ed days where they would not just have very technical sessions about that stuff still. I mean, that's where we come from. That's the foundation for everything we have right now. And good luck in trying to use cloud services without a PC to actually consume it. It's going to be hard. Windows is still very much needed. So unfortunately, I didn't see any sessions either. I missed them. I hope they bring them back eventually at some point. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Fond memories of 2014 Tech Ed with all of us laying around on the floor because you and Kent had packed the room so much for the pre-conference session.
Busy session, yeah. That was fun. No, that was good times. Good times.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions? For those of you, again, fresh to the platform, fresh to the office hours, we do accept questions on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we try to keep an eye on Twitter as well, but unfortunately, the Twitter integration doesn't allow us to see the messages like in a combined view, so we have to keep separate windows open for those, and I can only multitask so much. So, I do try to keep an eye on it. So if you mention me or Andrew, we typically will see it, but no guarantees on that one. All right. I can share some stuff that I've been working on this week that I think would be exciting, because 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, I published a video that we shared here in the office hours, and that was up on our deployment research YouTube channel, and that was how to set up PowerShell deployment for how to set up that platform so you can do cloud imaging or basically deployment over HTTPS. And this week I have spent way too many hours on preparing a follow-up session to that one that I started to work on here. It's not yet ready, but this is how you speed up that deployment by enabling peer-to-peer. And I actually have some of the metrics scribbled down somewhere that I took from that session. Deploying a bunch of machines behind a slow WAN link, and I was able to get the smaller images down from what used to be an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes actually down to only 25 minutes. And the bigger images, I went down from 2.5 hours down to about 40 minutes. But deploying over HTTPS, having just a weak link up to the server, still pretty good to be able to deploy a bunch of machines in that time frame. So this is been published hopefully this week. Hopefully a happy Friday video like the last one. We'll see. But it's looking promising so far.
Awesome. Can't wait.
All right. Fun stuff always. All right. Any other questions out there? We have a whooping 44 minutes to your are available. Well, I don't see any questions coming in at the moment. I guess people are busy trying to catch up on the Ignite breakout sessions from earlier today, or still running, I guess, a few of them. Let's see. There was one question coming in on LinkedIn. Basically, the question was regarding the monitoring feature in ConfigMgr. So let me bring up that node so we can take a look and see what the question was about. So that is not ConfigMgr, is it? PowerShell, closely related, but it's not ConfigMgr. So in monitoring and in the overview session for deployments, so I'm assuming that's meant this one, when you look at deployment for something that you have deployed, like viewing the status, etc., for it. The question was regarding, all right, by default, I will only see the first 500 devices, and then I have to page through them, but I can only page through them up to 20,000. And the question is there a way of increasing that number to above 20,000, because they basically had 28,000 assets in this environment? I don't know. I haven't seen it. Because that's just generic settings for that one. And I don't think there are any properties on this. So maybe. No, that will just show the deployment I've been working on. I haven't seen a way to increase the number of messages showing up here for the status. What I do know is that you can't get this information from PowerShell as well. So of course, that way you can probably go above what you see here in the console. If anyone figured out a workaround to have the console show more than 20,000 stepping through, please ping us in the chat. I'll be happy to relay that information, but it's not something I have stumbled across. All right. Troy says he has a question, but he didn't post the actual question. So, well, fire away, sir. I'll be happy to read it out when I see it. But Ari on YouTube had a question. Any tips on how to properly leverage regex in PowerShell to search for a specific string in a log file? Like maybe a good website, quick guides, etc. I know that Adam the Automator had some pretty good examples on his blog for regex. So see if we can find something there. Remind me of Patch Tuesday, Andrew, later. That was one thing I wanted to show there also.
Okay. Patch Tuesday.
Adam the Automator, regex. Yeah. So this is one of the better guides you will find. Regex is a tad painful, to say the least. I tend to always have to look up things every single time I'm about to even do a simple query. Just the way they are worded. But this is a good article that covers it. So we'll put that in the link collection for sure. And yeah, I would recommend starting there. Other than that, of course, our good friend Jeffrey Hicks, he had a lot of guidance out there as available around these like core concepts of PowerShell, how we can filter things easily, not just log files, but any type of string where you need to do some parsing is useful. All right. So that one. Back to Troy's question here. What's the preference for updating deployments? Update-centric or device-centric? I'm assuming you're talking about like Patch Tuesday updates here. Anything you'd like to add to that, Andrew? I know you guys are in the midst of it right now.
Yeah, I guess. So the way that I typically would deploy these is just a group of, and I don't know if will directly answer Troy's question, but uh, I'll take an Azure AD group that I want pilot devices to get like a pilot update ring in, and I'll add some devices in there, and then pretty much add the rest of our devices to an Azure AD group that would have a Windows Update ring, a production, let's say Windows Update ring that would delay updates by a week or so, but that's going to apply to most of my devices. And I try to keep it pretty broad and more of a baseline. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's
since
kind
we
of how I
really
do it.
cannot control which exact updates in Intune like you can with ConfigMgr,
Mhm.
uh, you can say you base it basically on device is the approach that because that's like pretty much the only option that is available. In ConfigMgr, of course, you can say that this update goes here, this update go there, stuff like that. You don't really have that granularity when managing them through Intune, at least not in the same way here.
Yeah. And that's always something that I enjoy us talking about. I've found in some organizations that's a better way to go to not have that granularity, because at the end of the day, we want to get our stuff patched in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So device centric, I guess it is the correct answer to the question make a short version of it. And speaking of these patches, for those that haven't seen this one, this is a fairly new blog from our friends over at PatchMyPC. And of course, Patch Tuesday being, yesterday, but this week, they announced a bunch of patches, Microsoft. And what I found interesting in this particular list is that we actually got a few patches also for Windows 7 down here somewhere. I just saw them in the list. Here we go. I did not expect that. So I kind of wonder what that vulnerability is about, but it must be something big because
I
they
was going to
usually
say,
do not provide updates.
yeah, usually not something too good that you want out there if they're putting those out.
Yeah. So Troy had a follow-up question, I guess to you, Andrew, there in that grouping that you were doing. What about any missing updates? How would you basically target that?
So in that grouping, with us using Windows Update for Business update rings, just anything, um, any device that gets added in there should pick up anything that's coming through uh, Microsoft Update. At that point, whether you drop in an image that was updated with this month's Patch Tuesday updates, or an old image that was updated 6 months ago, should pick up any of those missing updates. Um,
So
at least
otherwise,
in
we would go
theory.
back to troubleshooting that particular device then, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't noticed, I may have a little bit of a deeper voice than usual. Our kid is back in school this year after doing online school for 2 years, and I learned that kids bring home gifts from school. In this case, he gave me a voice of a Tom Waits at the moment, something like that. But
Yeah, I thought you were just bringing your radio voice.
no, it's a classic man flu. No COVID, luckily, but still, of course, I'm always almost dead because of having a little sniffle. So that's why. All right, let's see what else coming in. Question from Matt on the YouTube channel. How to connect remote desktop manager that I have on the screen to my laptop with all servers and devices on the same device. Well, as long as I'm assuming it's this one here, uh, this remote connection manager from Devolution, by the way, great tool. There is a freeware version available, or a community version that they call it. But all these servers are actually on multiple different labs, multiple different networks, and as long as there is a route to it, it will happily connect to that environment. I have shared this one before in the office hours, but it's what my lab at home currently looks like. A bunch of different networks and segments and routers and physical devices mixed with VMs and whatnot. But yeah, anyhow, it's a great tool. Absolutely great tool. Uh, I do like to point out that the good old fashioned RDC man still exists and breathes. It was discontinued for a good few years, and then the Sysinternal folks took it over. So if you still like that one, you can, of course, just go to sysinternals.com and search for RDC Man, and it will take you to a tiny download. It's about 600, it's tiny. 500 kilobyte. This is still really good to use for remote connections. I use that a lot in our classrooms that we have. So here in this particular tenant here, I was apparently extracting a file, but this is why I'm using that one for the very same purpose of easy access to a bunch of machines. So this is a bunch of Hyper-V hosts that we have available. So highly, highly recommended. Make sure to put that link in the chat as well. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'll just add on the remote desktop manager front. I've really started using it quite a bit more in the lab, where I also have a couple of devices that I have to SSH into, or an iDRAC page for my lab server, and I can do all of that from that one piece of software, which is super helpful.
Yeah, totally agree. But good stuff. Highly recommend that you support them by using it. So, all right. Any other questions? We have a whopping half hour to spend.
And without questions, we all know this will go towards Star Wars.
Always, always. Andor is pretty dang good, I'm telling you.
I heard today's episode, IGN rated it 10 out of 10. So I'm curious to see what that. I don't know any information about it, nor would I dare spoil anything. But I did hear that it's good.
All right, that's good enough for me. Get those ships ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any questions at all?
I don't have anything ready to share in my lab, but I have been working on basically taking some devices using the ConfigMgr autopilot for existing devices task sequence, manually naming a machine and getting it, enrolling it into autopilot, and then from there using the native. Well, I guess I can show a couple of these things at least, so people know what I'm talking about with this task sequence and everything.
Yeah, that would be good. That sounds like a blog post to me.
I think that we're getting there. So really what I'm using, I guess I have a couple of things here. I'm actually using Michael Niehause's blog post that does a couple of different things to speed up the built-in autopilot for existing devices task sequence. Basically, it skips sysprep. But one thing I found, so I've got just a simple VB script that will prompt during a task sequence for whatever you want this device to be named. Johan, you and I have talked about there's a couple of different methods to do this, but this for this particular scenario works really well. And this sets the OSD computer name variable during the task sequence. Michael's script uses the underscore SMSTS machine name, which if you're using the autopilot for existing devices task sequence as you normally would, which is on a device that's already been deployed out there, it's going to grab the original name of the machine and hold on to that for when you apply the OS again. So I've adjusted this a little bit to accept whatever name I put in that VB script, which I could also adjust the VB script or, whatever. But reusing the tools that I already had, which was that VB script and Michael's script, allows me to name my device, name a single device, basically, apply an OS, and have it enrolled into Autopilot, or at least use an Autopilot deployment profile that I've gathered using PowerShell and manually apply it to the device by dropping it into this directory on the OS. From there, then I'm now starting to play around with the co-management settings that they added natively. We talked about a little bit when we had Danny on last month or in August. So in Autopilot, we now have the ability to add co-management settings in here, which will download the ConfigMgr client MSI, and then we have basically some commands that will point it directly to CMG and enroll your device that has gone through Autopilot into co-management. So this is one of the first times that I've actually played around with this natively, and it's been working well on devices that have gone through the Autopilot enrollment and are at the desktop. Brings down the client pretty easily later on, and then what I'm working on is automating which workloads then stay with Intune or go over to ConfigMgr, as well as the policies and everything that come down after the fact, like you would with with Intune anyways. So a lengthy process. I agree. This probably warrants a blog post that adds a little bit more detail than me blabbing on about the 6 different services that you have to integrate to make this scenario work well. But getting pretty far with it, actually, which is nice for this specific scenario that I was trying to solve. I have been relying on Azure AD dynamic groups, which we talk about do have some drawbacks. I definitely prefer some of the solutions that you've showcased on here, Johan, where you're adding a device to an Azure AD group and then waiting to make sure it's there, or enrolling it in Autopilot and then having scripts that ensure that it's actually been enrolled and is ready to go through that process. But what we've been working through works pretty well for testing a lot of these scenarios that happen after the fact.
Awesome. All right, let's see what else coming in. Were you done there? Sorry.
Oh, yep, I'm done.
Yeah, okay. There was a question from Ari. Is there a way from PowerShell to detect monitor information, specifically a monitor connected to a laptop, like make models, size, resolution, etc., and monitor connected? I have seen a few PowerShell examples over the years that does that, or at least works with that. I believe it was David who wrote something like that for WinPE even, so that you can change and set the screen resolution that way, because he used that in his Cloud OSD platform. So let's see. For those of you who are new to GitHub, they recently, or not recently, a while ago, they introduced the search capability. So cs.github.com. You have to be logged in, of course, but this is where you can search all the repos in GitHub.
Did you want to share your screen, Johan?
Yes, that would be probably better
There we
than
go.
yours. Yeah, so up here, github.com, if you don't see us in front of it, you can search all the code that is available. And the beautiful thing about this is that if you search for, say, get monitor and then resolution maybe, and then you can throw in the language and say, I want it to be PowerShell. And it will give you all the snippets that you have for that purpose. So I would simply start to go through some of these examples because I bet that some of them will actually include exactly what you're asking for. This one looks quite promising. What you often find for code that is using like more closer to the hardware, you will often find that these code examples, they include a C# snippet in the midst of them that does something to a core function in Windows rather than a ready-made commandlet. So maybe that. Maybe that. All right, let's see what else. Good Lord. Yeah. Coffee helps. All right. Julius is asking on LinkedIn. We're considering using Autopilot here as we dig into other scenarios. Self-deploying mode is attractive because it requires little to no interaction. Can you talk about some of the gotchas or area that might catch? Yeah, basically, can you talk about some of the gotchas or other areas that you would stumble across? Well, first of all, both self-deploying, like a kiosk type scenario, as well as the white glove type scenarios that don't type in or tie into attestation or TPM attestation of the device. So the device must be functional in that aspect. And there are quite many things that can go wrong in that scenario. And it also kind of reduces you from easily tested on regular VMs. You actually have to play around with physical devices at all times when testing this. We called out Rudy's blog quite a few times here, but he recently blogged about the sort of autopilot complexity in general. And I forgot what he called his blog post because he always named them after a movie title, and then he changed some word in it to be not the movie title. But if that blog decides to load, this one, The Man Who Knew Autopilot. So basically showing all the different things that needs to work. And here, for example, we have the challenges around TPM attestation issues. I was reading a post or a Twitter thread just last week where AMD CPUs were causing a lot of grief for this because apparently something was wrong with certificates in the process, and stuff like that is really, really hard to troubleshoot. But Rudy has done an amazing job and trying to help you through that process for different scenarios. So that will be the most common thing for those type of scenarios, that there is something in Windows or in the overall ecosystem that is not okay. I mean, there was a time where some of the third-party vendors, their backend services for the certificates that were down, that there was no getting it. So, yeah. So maybe that. Follow-up question from Julius. Let's see. Question is basically around connecting a user with the device. What kind of benefits that would be? or what the potential impact be if you don't. It's absolutely not a requirement to do so, but it often makes sense to connect the device to a primary user for sure. And that's something that Autopilot offers you to do as well in the process. Anything you'd like to add there, Andrew?
Just I wonder if it's worth pointing out your Plan B blog post or any other blog post that may reference bulk enrollment token, if that's something that they want to, if that's something he wants to do in his organization, where it helps
Yeah,
with that enrollment.
yeah. I mean, if you do bulk enrollment, like we covered here in this post that we talked several times about in the chat, where you have a provisioning package and you simply tell your sequence to go ahead and apply that package already in the WinP phase. So this is before it reboots into Windows. So you can do that in ConfigMgr sequences, you can do it in your lighthead sequences. And at that point, of course, there is no primary user because the sequence just deploys and the machine gets enrolled. So that's doable. Niehaus also have a fantastic post. Good Lord. That explains that how you create that package and some things he stumbled across when he was working with this. So highly recommended reading for those. All right, let's see. Ari on YouTube is looking for a task sequence validation report that basically outputs what applications and drivers were installed during imaging, or in this case also what failed during imaging. Are there any scripts out there that we can steal with pride? Is the question. Only thing I remember is scripts from like the late 18th century from Kim Oppalfens. It's a VB script that find out devices that were basically not okay in device manager after deployment was done. Don't think I've seen anything more recent than that. Wonder if that still is around. This was way back. I don't find that script at the moment. Nothing that rings a bell. I mean, obviously there are WMI classes that you can parse through PowerShell, like the Win32, PNP, Entity, and others, and you can look for errors in those. I found an example here. Can share. Not surprisingly on Stack Overflow, but here we are. A little snippet that asks that particular class for devices that are not happy for whatever reason. There might be reports out there. If anyone happen to know about any, by all means, please let us know. I'm really happy to share it.
And perhaps not quite exactly what Ari was asking for, but Trevor Jones Task Sequence Monitor goes a long way to help you see some of that information. For some reason, mine's not pulling up anything right now, or I would show it, but
I think I can start a deployment somehow. I should be able to.
got a couple of machines you could try that on.
A machine or two. Let's see what I have here. Yeah, this one will do just fine. Assume it will boot or deploy just fine. Nothing like a live demo.
It's the best.
The best. Except that particular machine is no longer unknown, so it doesn't show me any sequences. So maybe this one hasn't been deployed yet. That's a downside of doing deployments to all unknown. You have to delete the object before you can redeploy them again.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this one is not deployed. Otherwise I have to go back and delete the unknown object, but I was hoping to save a good 20 seconds from doing so. Maybe 25 even. Let's see. Never give up. Persistence goes a long way. It does.
Huh?
Persistence goes a long way, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all right. Let's pick one of my sequences. I have the one I use for modern driver management stuff. Give it a computer name just for the fun of it.
And there's another method to set OSD computer name without having to rely on a VB script.
Yeah, or a front end. So this is the debugger I was using in testing earlier. I'm going ahead and just run this sequence. And as soon as it's done something, it starts to report that information up, obviously, status messages to the server. And then we can use the tool that Andrew mentioned, the sequence monitor. Trevor Jones, been around for many, many years, this particular solution. But I will pick that sequence that I was working on. And it was this one here. And I just need to connect here. Believe. There we go. And it will give me, I mean, this is pretty much now in UTC time, or whatever time it is on that boot image right now. But you see what it's doing. So I like it. It's a good one. All right. Matt is asking about issues with Windows 11 and language packs. I haven't had a chance to play around too much with Windows 11 and language pack. I just tried out the new commandlets that came for Windows 10 and Windows 11 now in the preview update from August. That is obviously now included in also September and the October. But this has simplified things a lot for our customers that deals with language packs, because now you can just install that language pack, set that language pack with ready-made commandlets instead of having to do obscure run DLL commands, etc. So that's really helpful for sure. But other than that, I haven't played around much with Windows 11 and the language packs. See if you can find that post about those commandlets. We did share it in one of the office hours here. Yeah, so Stefan, if he's from Germany, maybe not. Let me bring that link up here. So this is a blog post that talks about these new commandlets that is available in Windows 10 and Windows 11. And either retrieving them, installing them, makes it very, very easy. And they will pull down from Windows Update if you don't have them available on the machine here. So yeah, good stuff. Should make things a lot simpler in terms of language packs. All right, let's see what else. Question regarding changing or enabling screensaver photo settings on Windows 10. No. I don't remember having done that.
I'd have to dig pretty far back since I've done anything with the screensaver.
I mean, Gary has for the lock screen, if that's what's being referred to. So Gary has a few modules. We actually showcased this last week, but it does, you do have the option of changing that during when you run a sequence, for example, to show something on the machine. So maybe something from this could be helpful. All right, let's see what else. Did I miss any questions, Andrew?
I don't think so. Just the most recent one from Ari, I think, is the only one left.
All right, and that one is.
What are your favorite tools out there that can help organizations with app license management tracking, like Snagit, AutoCAD, Camtasia, basically providing information about how many purchased versus how many consumed?
Do you want to take that one, Andrew?
Normally, I'd ask you. That's my answer. Ask Johan. I don't have any favorites, honestly. I do that probably in an inefficient manner through hardware inventory and things like that. And now I'm going to make that problem more difficult for myself by moving more towards Intune. We also
Maybe because you
have.
lack inventory. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes. Yes, that's a challenge.
I mean, the only platform I've been using is actually ConfigMgr.
Yeah.
And I mean, the asset intelligence feature haven't received love in years and years, of course. But it is here. It allows you to keep track of things that you've been inventorying or inventoried software, and you have software metering that you can use to measure the usage of said software. And then in your reporting, when you have that information, I mean, you can upload a list of your own licenses here. And once you have done that, which I have in my environment, I can go ahead and run one of the reports for this. So there is a bunch of basically asset intelligence reports. And the one that we're probably interested in that case would be, let's see, 15A maybe. Yeah, so this one here, where it will compare what you have installed. I think I can do even all systems on this little lab. I don't have even 100 clients on this one, but it will tell you how much you had bought of, in this case, a fake 7-zip license, how many I have installed of this particular version, and how much is the difference. And that will tell you basically, yeah, on 7-zip, I'm heavily over licensed in my environment. Apparently, I'm also heavily over licensed on Office Pro 2010. But maybe something like this. But I mean, there are many third-party vendors out there that deals with like more advanced application management. But I haven't worked with any, so I don't know. ConfigMgr, no, and that's pretty much it. Charles is asking, what tools do you use to back up and restore Intune? I'm a big fan of Mickey's tool that we showcased probably 10 times in this office hours already, but I don't mind showing it again because he recently released a new version that supports the ADMX template support, feature that recently came into to Intune. So this one here, I like.
Yeah, just this week, I think.
I believe it was this week, yeah. There's an update 2 days ago, so I'm assuming that's the one. So if I download this little thing here, I mean, what can go wrong in a late 2 minute before finishing demo? So I would take that one, copy over here, paste it in, extract it to some clever name. Do you happen to see what version it was that was released?
3.7.2, yep.
All right. So we call it 3.7.2. And then, dang it. A little bit of a control freak when it comes to structures. But let's do it. Give it a PowerShell. And batch file to start the PowerShell script, of course. There's a start with console also somewhere, I think. It used to be. Yeah, start with console. Gives you some extra output. But this tool is particularly shiny. I'm logged in here. So here is where I have all my different profiles and whatnot. Scripts, applications, and you can just export from here. So you can very well use this for backup and restore stuff that you have in Intune. There are some PowerShell commands out there as well that is published by Microsoft to do a backup and restore. I have not tried those. I never had a chance to restore an entire tenant. I usually just import, export stuff that I may have deleted or that I simply had in a different environment that I want over here. So this is a great tool. Highly, highly recommended. Yeah.
I noticed in the release notes too, and I know we're at time here, but I feel like we had a question recently about this. In the release notes in the most recent version, one of the new features he added translates the tenant ID when migrating policies between environments. So any policy with a tenant ID value will be translated when importing to a new environment. Very cool.
That is very cool. All right. And if you're listening by any chance, Michael, thank you for this tool. It's awesome. Good stuff. All right. We're up. Thank you, everyone, for all the great questions. Thank you, Andrew, for joining as usual. And enjoy have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.